Good day, everyone. It has been a long while. I gave a keynote speech, Master of Failures, at the JMA conference in 2018. Time really does fly. Now the end of 2021 is just around the corner. We have all had a very surreal experience in the past 2 years, with so many uncertainties caused by the pandemic. It is my pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, JMA. And thank you all for spending your time with me. Enough of formalities. Let's talk about stones. Why are stones so often associated with silence? If I have learned everything over the past 5 decades, it is that communication is not just about speaking out loud and making sounds. You may be surprised to learn that I used to be very shy. I grew up in extreme poverty and I was uneducated. I have to gather my courage every time I walked into a bookshop, because to me, a bookshop, a house of knowledge. It's a sacred place. For me to stand and speak in front of people, I have to practice non-stop for days, weeks, and months. However difficult it was for me to speak up, I knew that my creations would not be complete if their stories were not told. I felt that gemstones come with messages from the universe, and through my creations, I translate such messages. Now, the translator's role is to support communications, and that is what I strive to do. I felt that, among other roles, I am most like a translator for the beautiful, magical, cosmic poems. My relationship with stones began when I was still so much a simple-minded teenager. In 1973, when I was 16 years old, I became a gemstone carving apprentice. And at a workshop in Hong Kong that specialized in Chinese artifacts, I met my first stone, a piece of malachite. I thought it spoke to me. I'm quite sure that I heard something, but I didn't know what it was yet. It became my lover, my best friend, almost immediately. Day and night, I just wanted to spend time with it. That was the beginning of my obsession with stones. In the beginning, the communication between me and my stones was rather one-sided. I thought I could just carve in however ways I wanted. I thought, as long as I had the skills, I could just follow my imagination. It didn't take long before I found out that our one-sided conversation would never work. I learned to always listen to the stones during my early years as a carver. For example, if I set out to carve the face of a goddess, halfway through the carving, I might discover a black spot where the nose was supposed to be. What should I do? As you can guess, I could not get the stone to change for me, not a million years. So I must learn to change my mind. Every decision I made would be based on the information provided by the stone in my hands. I had to think quick, be responsive and flexible. My stone freed me from my ego. My stones were my masters. They taught me to be humble and calm. They taught me to listen and observe. I think most of you must have heard about the Wallace Chan already. I wonder if I should repeat the story for the millionth time. But then, there would not be Wallace Chan without the Wallace cut. Let's see if I can tell it one more time in a different way. I was 11 years into my life as a carver when I first had the idea of inventing an illusionary carving technique. By that time, I had carved enough traditional Chinese motifs using opaque gemstones and begun exploring the properties of light through transparent crystal bodies. My new discovery was Michelangelo, who immediately became my hero. When I saw a photography's exhibition and learned about double exposure, I could not help but dream. Would it be possible to carve an image on a crystal and turn it into multiple illusions like mirrors, reflections, mirage, and rainbows? These are all magic of light. I wanted to be a part of that magic. Knowing that a dream would come true is one thing, but making it come true is another. I worked day and night for a total of 2.5 years. First, I needed to calculate precisely the angle for the facet to be made. Now, let me remind you, it was in the 80s, a time when the computer was not an option for a poor, uneducated carver. My brain was the only available calculator at that time. Most of the magic we experience is the result of repeated practices. The goddess face on the crystal had to be a beautiful face. It required devotion. I was its devotee. I chanted with the carving tool and prayed for her to come alive and smile. For the magic to happen, I had to carve at the back of the stone, with the nose being the starting point. The carving had to be done in reversed thinking. Left was right, and right was left. Deep meant shallow, and shallow meant deep. Each stroke I made would become part of the image reflected. There was no room to get around. Practices alone, however, are never enough. Tools matter. I decided to get an apprentice a position at the factory, where I could learn about the mechanics for making my own carving tool. It took me 6 months to learn that I could turn a dental drill into a carving tool. However, the solution for the tools brought about another problem. The new tool spun at 36,000 times per minute. The speed generated so much heat and tension that once it touched upon the stone's surface, it cracked the stone. What should I do? I was many months into the project and my resources were running low. I could not afford to damage another stone. We all know that water reduces heat and tension. That was also my solution, but that was not an easy solution. By placing both the stone and my carving tools in water, I put myself in a challenging position. I could not see anything when I carved. The water blurred my vision. Now, how do you carve when you cannot see? Remember, I only had so many stones for my experiment. Each cracked stone would be a great loss at that time. And remember also, with the stone already faceted for the reflections, each mistake would be reflected 4 more times. At the very beginning, I had no choice but to take the stone out of the water after each stroke I carved. I would try the stone and check that it was fine before I put it back into the water to make another stroke. It was a long and seemingly never-ending process. Every day I sat by my work desk in a raincoat. Every time I stood up, I made a splash. There would be water everywhere. But I could not care less. In the end, after hours and hours of painstaking practice, I could continue carving in the water for 2 to 3 minutes without having to check for mistakes. It was as if the carving tool became a part of me, and I became a part of the universe. I forgot the existence of my physical self. The whole of my being was concentrated on the breathing of the stone and the music of the tool. The Wallace Chan was born in 1987. In Chinese, we have a saying, if there are 1,000 kinds of stones, there are 10,000 kinds of jade. But if you ask me, that's not even close to what jade is. When I was a gemstone carver, before I ventured into the world of jewelry art, I also carved with jade. But carving jade didn't give me the knowledge of cutting jade. These are 2 different sets of knowledge. So at some point in my life, when I thought I knew a lot about jade and stone cutting, I went and tried cutting a piece of jade. It was a disaster. The color went from green to nothing. I had no idea what went wrong. I thought it was just like cutting other stones. And then I realized jade is a subject of its own. Knowing about other stones may help a little, but it's not enough to make you an expert in jade, unlike diamond cutting. So far, there is still not a technology that can help you analyze the truth of jade. Each piece of jade is a mystery. It may talk to you, but it may also trick you with its talk. To know how and where to cut it, people gather their knowledge, experiences, and courage, and spend a lot of time just looking at it. I have a friend who has kept a piece of jade for 20-some years now, and he still had not decided on the best way to cut it. I spent 3 years figuring out the mystery of jade. By 2003, I invented a jade cutting and polishing technology, which I patented not long later. If you look at this creation, still live, the wings of the cicada are about 2 millimeters only, very thin. To have a piece of jade so thin and at the same time retain its color was both the challenge and the fun. One time, one of my collectors came to see me with a jade piece likeness. He wanted me to create something with it, turn it into a piece of wearable art. I told him, yes, no problem, as long as he let me repolish the jade piece. He said he had to ask his wife first, as the jade pieces were already of a very high value and quality. Sometimes later, he asked me again, and I repeated the same way. When he came to me the 3rd time, he agreed that I could repolish the jade piece. When I completed the collection, I sold it to the collector. He and his wife looked at the necklace and said I must have made a mistake. Mr. Chan, it is not our necklace. It must be someone else. The reason why they said so was that they saw that the beads were just as big, but the brightness and color were so much better than before. As I said, I would repolish the jade beads. They came to see me with the expectation that their jade beads would become smaller. So I told them what I did. Yes, I repolished the jade beads, but only the hole in the middle of the beads where the string was to go through, so there could be more light. I also changed the normal string to the titanium string, so the metal will reflect and therefore enhance the light going through the jade beads. When I talk to my stones, I never expect direct, straightforward conversations. Unlike me, they have very few words but are extremely precise. When you talk to them, you need their patience and courage to listen to what they have to say. Communicating with stones is not just simply looking at them. I have done quite a number of interviews in the past, and the photographers always ask me to look at the stones with a loupe. I obeyed their requests for many years, but in recent years, I have become more reluctant to do so. Yes, it is a common image, a typical pose for anyone who works with stone and jewelry. But I feel that it doesn't reflect how we look at stone when we look at stones. Let me tell you another story. One of my biggest collectors is from Taiwan. I think we must have known each other for 20 years now, if not more. But he first learned of me and my works from a TV interview. He then asked a gemstone dealer whether she could introduce me to him. The lady, who is now one of my very good friends, told him that she had noticed me in the gem and jewelry fairs, but she didn't think I was a jewelry artist. She was, indeed, very certain that I was a fortune teller. She said she thought so because every time she saw me at the fair, I was walking around the fair with my palm open facing upward, like a Chinese fortune teller trying to tell the feng shui of a place. The truth is, yes, I was always walking around with my palm open facing upward. Not because I wanted to find out about the feng shui, but because I wanted to look at the stones on my palm under different lights. Stones come alive with light. White light, warm light, UV light, natural light. And when it comes to natural light, the natural light at different hours of the day, the natural light in London, the natural light in Hong Kong, and the natural light in Burma, because of the different UV levels, are all different. It is not possible for us to look at a stone under all the different lights. But it is important that we are aware of possibilities different light may inspire. This is an example of my butterflies. Sealed a butterfly specimens in between rock crystal and mother of pearl upon a titanium structure. I have to think of a way to capture the light, as if the butterfly were ever fluttering, under the sun and in the wind. Light is important, but light is not everything. Shadows played a part too. This was when my experiences as a carver came in handy. I carved pathways for the light so that when it reached the surface of the crystal or the titanium, it would encounter more opportunities for reflection, which delayed its movements and made it last longer. Although through carving I create an uneven surface where shadows would come to contrast the light, lending the piece more dimensions, and therefore more movement even when it was not moving. I suppose we are all more or less enchanted by the colors of stones. But why are colors so attractive? Why do some colors attract us more? Why do I enjoy purple so much? Why do you like green, red, pink, orange, yellow? And why is it that the green of one stone is so different from another's? The green of Dementor's garnet can be surprisingly fresh, while the green of an emerald can be so deep and mysterious. And then there is the green of jade. But the funny thing is, we often say that the imperial jade has an emerald green color. But I have always believed that colors matter so much because colors are both cultural and emotional. Red is urgency, romance, passion. A deeper red is natural color. A lighter red, a pink color, is about youth and joy, the laughter of a child. Blue is a surreal color. It is otherworldly. Perhaps it reminds us of Asian gods. It is also about purity, the sea and the sky. Yellow is also associated with the sun, sunflowers, energy, something happy and positive. Purple, my favorite color, is noble, spiritual, balanced. When blue and red, calmness and passion, come together, there is the purple color. We can go on and on about what each color means. But that is not the point. The point is knowing that color is one of the ways our stones speak to us. When I went to create movement, I think about how the colors will move. If you place green and red together or yellow and blue, the color jumps from one to another. You do these with you want drama, excitement, or tension. But again, green comes in many shades, red also, and blue every color. When I want to express a subtle, gentle, and natural movement, such as the summer wind, I lay out the shade carefully and create a color graduate. When we communicate with the stones, we are also communicating with ourselves. When we create for a gemstone, we are also recreated by our relationship with the gemstone. In my experience, during the creative process, there is no you and me. There is me in you and you in me. That is my relationship with each stone. The communication is constant. It is also an ongoing process of self-reflection, of self-revelation. Every color, form, and light is related to our experiences, which have since our birth shaped the way we see the world. We can try our best to be objective, but it is still so subjective. Our dialogues with the stones are about an intimate relationship with not only the stones but also ourselves, exploring many aspects of our beings that we might not be able to put into words. Having said all the above, I think it is also about nurturing our own empathy. Empathy is probably one of the most important qualities of mankind. In the early 2000s, I spent 6 months as a monk. I stopped eating. I stopped all worldly habits. And then I began to feel a lot of things. When a flower fades, I felt the sadness of its friends. I felt the song of the birds, the tokaman trees, and the pain of grass. As I felt for them, I became them. I became sensitive to everything around me. When I placed the cup on the table, I felt that if I did not do it gently, I would cause it pain. Empathy nurtures creativity. It helps you let go to yourself. When you let go of yourself, you are able to feel the world. You will see the world from not just a different point of view, but many different points of view. You will learn how to listen, truly listen, when your stones and other things in the universe try to tell you their greatness stories. And these are my stories for today. Thank you, and I wish you all a wonderful day.